Was there a moment when you realized that dealerships were just like way more vulnerable than you thought or expected because of all the places where you could have gone to find vulnerabilities? The automotive,
Yeah.
I mean, they got them everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. The cool thing is that, much like it's a niche environment, right? And
It is.
that it's a very niche environment. There's a saying that I love is when you know the way broadly, you see it in all things. And there's things that are common in every structure. There's people and there's systems.
Say that
And
again.
when there's people and there's systems. And when there's people and there's systems, you can troubleshoot. And you can say, all right, in an ideal scenario, how do I do this? And it's like, okay, let's break it down and map it out. So you say, name it. So you say, I'm going to name what the thing is. So this is, the let's say contracts in transit, right? Paperwork gets signed, right? The paperwork gets signed is one post-it note. And then the STIPs, or completed paperwork is another post-it note. And then getting it to accounting is another post-it note. And the deal posting in CDK is another note. And then that deal getting funded is another post-it note. And you can literally put the post-it notes on and you can say, where does this break? Where does it break most often? Well, it breaks when they're collecting the STIPs. And let's magnify that problem and say, when collecting this, why is it collecting STIPs? And then you say, oh, well, the finance manager is usually busy and they don't have necessarily a finance secretary that can track down this stuff. Well, what's the big consequence of that happening is that the money in the organization dries up because you don't have contracts getting funded. So you start really seeing this as this is an accordion. And I read a book by Peter Senge called The Fifth Discipline, which understands, you start saying systemic thinking is the fifth discipline. And when I combine that with my experience with aircraft maintenance and troubleshooting and how you understand systems and how systems are interconnected with each other. And I read Freakonomics, the Freakonomics book. It's these, I love that book. And it's like disparate data pieces have to do with each other. And I love that systemic thinking. And then to go a little bit deeper, I was introduced to a modality called systemic constellations in Romania in 2008. And that cracked open the people part, right? So people are patterns and people repeat patterns in their behavior. And sometimes, they're part of a larger organization, and that combines with the systemic intelligence of an organization, what we call culture. And then it creates these feedback loops that are either destructive or constructive. That why do we keep having this same conversation over and over and over and over again? Why do we see the same person, even somebody that leaves the organization, somebody takes that spot and adopts the same behavior? It's because the system has some cultural unconscious communication that we're experiencing. And I think with the methodology that I'm very biased towards, and there's many other methodologies, but the one that I'm biased towards uncovers those dynamics and lets them go, and you can create massive momentum when you're doing that.